Hey, Kev here. And this is the Keychron Q2. It's actually pretty good, I think. It retails for about 179 US dollars or 250 Australian dollars. But there is a 36 US dollars shipping fee you do need to pay if you want to get this board to your front door, which is a bit steep in my opinion. Now, if you saw my original review of the Q1, I really didn't like the metal pinging sound of that keyboard. So I'm happy to say that Keychron have pretty much fixed the main complaint of that original Q1 by integrating some silicon gaskets into the bottom case. The Q2 is a compact 65% layout and has pretty much all the bells and whistles you'd want from a custom mechanical keyboard. It's got an aluminum chassis, it's got RGB, it's hot swappable, it's got screw-in stabilizers, and of course it's got a twisty volume knob. Who doesn't like that? And also, the keycaps are double shot PBT, which means that it's going to last you a very long time. PBT is known to have very good oil resistance and longevity. The trade-off though is that you're not going to have any shine through on the keycaps. Probably the only thing missing in this keyboard is wireless connectivity, to be honest. So all in all, I'm very happy with this keyboard. The stock switches it comes with are the Gateron G Pros, and you can choose either the clicky, the tactile, or the linear. In my unit here, I've got the Gateron Browns, which are the tactile switches. In my random selection of the switches on my unit, it looks like the Gaterons are pretty uniform across the board. I noticed very little stem wobble, and also the switch housings seem to be fitted tightly with little movement. So at this point of the video, I'm pretty happy to recommend this keyboard to anyone who wants to get a custom mechanical keyboard. It's built like a tank, and its sound is pretty good and well controlled out of the box. But this keyboard also has so much potential. Now, if you want to improve the sound of this keyboard, and maybe any other keyboard that you've got, keep watching ahead to see what mods I did to this keyboard. Now, my first two upgrades was to do with the case sound. Whilst Keychron had built in these silicon gaskets on the bottom case, there was still a little bit of pinging sound audible when typing, and for some reason, that was most noticeable when I pressed the enter key, which was very annoying. I did a very simple mod, which involved 2 layers of masking tape on the edges of the bottom case, which pretty much eliminated a good amount of the pinging. But I didn't stop there. I noticed that the sound dampening mechanism on the bottom of the board was simply a thin foam mat and this weird black plastic film, which honestly doesn't really do much. So I got a piece of sound deadening material, which is usually used on car doors, cut it into size, flattened it, and stuck it on the bottom case. This material is absolutely amazing. You have to listen to hear the difference. The second mod that I did was to the stabs. Now, the stabilizers are pre-lubed, but there was still a little bit of rattly sound in them, so I wanted to do the Holy mod. And if you've never done the Holy mod before, it can get a little bit finicky, but with a bit of time and patience, it's going to be well worth it. First up, you need to first unscrew the stabilizers and separate the metal bar from the plastic housing. Then you need to clean off the existing lubricant using a bit of dish soap and a brush. Make sure you thoroughly clean them and also thoroughly dry them before you go on any further. After that, get a strip of fabric band-aid and don't use the plastic ones because the plastic ones are not going to provide enough cushioning. With the band-aid in one hand, cut it into small strips about the same size as the little ramp on the stabilizer insert. Gently thread the band-aid through the up ramp until there's no overhang, and then cut a bit off the tail, then push it into the bottom hole and hook it in. That's the hard part done, but that's also the tedious part as well. After that, apply a bit of your preferred lube on the inside of the stabilizer housing and also some lube on the outside of the stabilizer insert, and then put it back together. Then, apply a generous amount of lube on one end of the metal stabilizer bar, ensuring you lube just past the turn. Align the stabilizer housing, and then using a 90-degree angle, thread the stabilizer bar into the housing and then rotate to lock it in. Repeat on the other side and do it again with any other stabilizers that you want to mod as well. After you're done, this is the sound before and the sound after the upgrades. You should be able to notice that there's a little bit less rattling sound when you do press on the stabilizers. third set of upgrades was to the PCB. I first did a foam mod by cutting a sheet of PE foam into size and laying it across the PCB, cutting out the areas for where the stabilizers would go and making holes for where the switches also go. There are two very important points for this mod though if you want to attempt it. The first one is, make sure you get PE foam that's about 0.5mm thick. Anything thicker than that, you might not actually have the switches to actuate when you press down on them because of the extra thickness. I wasn't able to find any 0.5mm foam, so what I had to do to get around this was actually use a rolling pin and roll out the actual foam until it was thin enough to be put in between the switches and the PCB. The next point is, make sure if you're putting the switches back into the PCB that you align them correctly. Because of this extra foam layer, there is a bigger risk that you do bend those switch pins or snap them even. After this mod is done, I think the end results speak for themselves. The PE foam mod actually reduces the space between the switch and the PCB and results in less reverberation when the switch is actuated. I think this sounds more of a poppy, marbly sort of sound, but here's a sample. After the foam mod, I then did the mod that everyone else is doing. I mean, even KVD fans has an option to select that mod when you order your keyboard. And it's a very simple mod. It's the Tempest tape mod, which pretty much involves applying 4 to 6 layers of masking tape on the bottom side of the PCB. I have to say though, use masking tape or painter's tape and don't use anything that's too sticky, such as duct tape, because you do risk breaking the PCB when you take it off. I think this mod made the popping sound of the keyboard a little bit more noticeable by allowing certain frequencies to be absorbed and also some to be reflected back. After these mods, I think I could describe the keyboard's new sound as a cleaner, smoother, poppier sound. It's got a bit of that bubble wrap poppy sound, which I really like, and overall, the keyboard is a lot more enjoyable to use. Before the mods though, I think the biggest difference was the sound dampening on the case and also the PE foam mod on the PCB. To be honest, I couldn't really hear much of a difference when I did the Tempest tape mod, but maybe there's something you can hear that I can't. So, here's a comparison of all the sounds with the different mods. Again, this keyboard's pretty good in its stock form, so if you don't want to dive into the modding scene, it's perfectly fine. But if you do, there are endless possibilities for what you can do with this keyboard and how to make it so much better. Let me know in the comments below which mod you think was the most worth it and what you think about this keyboard. Do you think it's too expensive or if it's at a good price point? And also, what do you think about the outrageous postage fee? Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to click that bell icon. See ya.